Alright, welcome back again. This is video number 20 in molding and casting a life-size figure. So what you're seeing here is that lower section that was in two parts that I joined and then connected those two parts together. In putting these two back together, it went pretty easily. There was one area where, because I used 3 layers of mold material on the inside, sometimes if you have really deep areas sort of going in, they can come very close together when you put them together, and if you've got obviously a lot of mold material on both sides, they can sometimes hit up against one another. So I had to identify 2 spots like that in this one, sand those areas down a little bit so that I could fit the whole thing together. And then when I put it together, you want to check both the top and the bottom, make sure they're both fitting nicely, because we're going to be stacking things on top of one another. So it's important to make sure that you've got both the top and the bottom fitting together well. Again, minimum gap in the seam line. So then what I did is, from the top, I worked down and I tried to fill in that V that I talked about, and I mixed up a fairly liquid first batch that was colored white, and filled the seam line. And I found that I could get almost all the way down. It was a little tight, a little difficult, but you know, I had to construct some brushes that had a little bit more length to them to reach down. But I think I was able to get just about everywhere in the seam line. My second layer was a little bit more goopy, like a little paste-like, and I made sure that I filled in completely that V so it was just flat. And then I put on 2 coats of the cloth laminate. And again, I was able to reach pretty much all the way, not quite all the way down from the top, but fairly close. There'll probably be a few little areas that I missed when I open up the mold, but the main thing is to get it really attached well, and I definitely did that at the top. I turned it on in, and then did the same thing from the bottom, went up as far as I could. But I didn't have to go too far. And again, same thing down here, connecting the seam line with the laminating material. You'll also notice I widened the base, and what I decided to do is take just 2x2s and put them in. And what I did is I wrapped them first with the laminating cloth and attached them to the base. And then there were like little gaps that I filled in with paste of the material, and also some foam in some areas just to fill some bigger gaps. And then I laminated the whole thing with 2 layers of cloth, so I got a much stronger base now for this to sit on. You know, in retrospect, I probably could have used just blue, like 2-inch blue scoreboard instead of wood, but just psychologically, I think it feels good to sort of have wood in there, and it's not that much heavier than, you know, they're fairly small pieces of wood. All right, so this is finished. I think in terms of getting to the seam and taking care of the seam, this is probably the hardest piece. This is the next piece that's going to go on top, and you can see I've got a lot more space in here. When this goes on top of this, it's going to be very easy to reach the seam line. So I think going up now, I'm not going to have as difficult a time as not that this was that hard, but it was a little bit tighter getting these seams. But I think now going up, I've got more room to operate. So what I'm going to do now is I want to make sure that this thing is flush with the rubber. So when this completely dries, I'm going to come in with a palm sander and just sand this down so it's as close to the rubber as possible, and then just check it with a level and make sure that I'm getting this completely level and the same as the rubber was, because I don't want to, you know, I don't want to put this thing on end and take it off and the whole thing be tilted, right? So I want to kind of pay attention to this area, take my time, make sure that's a level. And then I'll come back once this is on the ground and I've got this piece on top. I'll let you see what that looks like and explain a little bit more about this joining process.